This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. This is March. Good evening, everybody, and welcome in. After the first 4 games have been played, now it's time to get serious as we are on the eve of the 2025 NC2A Division I Men's Basketball College Basketball Tournament, beginning play on Friday in various spots around the country. And welcome in, folks, to the official C2C March Madness Preview Show. For the time being joined by our good man, Big B, Brandon Herrera from the great state of Minnesota. Callan McClurg joining you folks here in San Diego, California. Mr. Herrera, here we go, my friend. One of my personal favorite times of the year is finally here. First 4 games are done. Now, my man, we get serious starting on Friday morning at around 11 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Brandon, good to see you. Good to hear you, my friend. How's it going tonight?
It's going good. It's one of my favorite times, just because, we're both baseball guys, so it also indicates baseball's around the corner, but it's always fun to, get with a group of people at work, with your buddies, on the internet, and just see how many of these games you get right. We could watch as many basketball games as we can, but, we don't know who's going to win. It's always a fun, do we pull for the Cinderella teams? Do we pull for our teams? Do we pull for, the team you're wearing right now? It's one of those days, that you just never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen when it boils down, though, to March Madness. That's why I say that it's my favorite time of the year, because I think probably, Brandon, why I've always been enamored by March Madness is not that I love basketball, and I always have my famous line, well, hey, I've worked in college basketball Division II and Division I for 8, 9, 10 years, but I think I've always been have always gravitated towards March Madness every year from when I was very young till now, just because of the chaos, the drama, the thrilling comebacks, a lot of these very small universities, that do get in and they pull off those upsets. My personal favorite was 2008, the University of San Diego Toreros getting in after we won the West Coast Conference title at home, back when conference tournaments were being played on campuses, not being played at neutral sites, in Vegas or in, Indianapolis, whatever. And we, beat Gonzaga. And then we get in, we have to face the Jim Calhoun-led UConn Huskies. We force overtime and we win the game. And I remember running around the backyard because it was Easter Sunday when we won the game with the game-winning 3 at the buzzer to beat UConn, like San Diego, USD beating UConn in March Madness. We think of Furman last season beating Virginia, all but times, but 2 times that a 16 seed knocked out the 1. So I don't know about you, Brandon, but why, though, do you probably gravitate so much, though, to March Madness, and for that matter, tournament time when it comes up, in mid-March?
Well, it's just like you said, the excitement, watching the big teams. Before the internet, this is where we got to see a lot of the big stars and can prepare for, I'd like to see my team draft that guy. But, lately it's been, is the number one going to get knocked off by the 16 seed? I remember watching it intensely 96 when the Gophers made their run, and then it came to the Final Four and they had a bench like 3/4 of their team because of academic rules and stuff like that. So that was a bummer. But just to see these kids go out there, play their hearts out, and get that last second shot like Leitner did back in Duke days, or I think it was Suggs a few years ago for UConn. To see those guys, and even see guys I grew up or went to school with, or knew them through, because of me play basketball, like Khalid Al-Amin, got to see him play a few times. So it's always good to see these guys go out there, and it's all about them.
And that's really the main story, is that it's about a lot of these, players, coaches. I think, Brandon, you said it so right, though, about, Grant Hill, full court heave, Christian Leitner hits, and then, how he celebrates running off the floor. We kind of saw that a bit with Alabama State, beating St. Francis of Pennsylvania on Tuesday to kick off the first four. Similar kind of play. It was a full court heave. It was, ping-ponging around. Finally came to the big fella Knox for them, and he put it in to win the game. And I think also, Brandon, like you were saying, those is a lot like what we were saying about, players who become big names. Isaiah Thomas from Washington, though that was in the Pac-12 or Pac-10 conference tournament. But, even like a San Diego State, just 2 years ago, when they beat Alabama, they went all the way. And, of course, won the game over a very good Florida Atlantic team at the final buzzer. And, that shot lives on now here in San Diego sports lore. Like I said, about USD beating UConn, St. Peter's, and they're at Loyola Chicago, all those, teams that we talk about. Before, folks, we kind of dive into the nitty-gritty. Reminder that we did launch and relaunch our C2C March Madness group on ESPN.com. So plain as day, simple as this. Log on to ESPN.com, sign in or sign up, and then select the men's tournament challenge on the fantasy page on the kind of the top right of the screen. Then you can search in the search bar of the group directory, Coast to Coast Entertainment. Use our password C2C 2024 and enter and play against our panel. I know that we're kind of getting that back up and running. We are getting that back up and running at this rate, and that as one small reminder, but brackets will lock at 9 o'clock on 9 a.m. on Thursday morning, so 11 a.m. Central Time. Those brackets become locked and sealed and slammed shut. So if you want to get involved now. With that, Brandon, let's actually pull up a bracket, and let's actually fill out a network bracket for ESPN.com. Let's first, Brandon, can I talk about those top four seeds? I also have a paper bracket too that I always keep. A digital and a written one that I have at my disposal. Let's talk, though, Brandon, about those number one seeds. Auburn, number one overall, 28-5 out of the SEC. They will be also joined by a fellow SEC university in Florida, who is the number one in the West region, 30-4 on the season. Duke, led by an injured Cooper Flagg, 31-3. And then Houston, 30-4, also comes in as a top seed. So, Brandon, out of those top four seeds, Auburn, 28-win team. The other three teams winning 30-plus games. Brandon, would you probably agree that the top four seeds, the top number one seeds, were they correctly given out in your mind by the committee last Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, they have a hard choice, but I think they gave out the top four. I think maybe Duke might have been the considered number one overall seed if their star didn't get hurt, but no, I think they did. I think they do right almost every year in getting those four seeds right.
Yeah, I think there was a case, Brandon, to your point, was true, though. I think all four teams could have been that one. I think Duke was probably a little bit more of a sexier name, I'd say. I'm not to say that Auburn wasn't, but I think, though, Cooper Flagg, projected number one pick, 31-win season. Them beating North Carolina not once, not twice, three times, twice in the regular season, and, of course, ousting them in the ACC title game last Saturday. Then, of course, Florida has kind of been a bit of, I would say, a renaissance team these past couple years, and especially this season. Then, of course, Houston has been a very consistent team these past several years as a 1, maybe as a 2. So I think that they definitely, though, did get those right. Brandon, the other big calamity here, the other big talking point, of course, that all I heard yesterday and Monday and Sunday was about that play-in game that was played on Tuesday. It was North Carolina playing San Diego State. Two teams that I know a lot of the media pundits and national media said neither of these teams deserve to be here. I was kind of, Brandon, honestly, even living in San Diego, I even kind of thought SDSU did not quite deserve to get in because of their dismal end to the season. They had a very tough time in conference play, losing to New Mexico, who I think could have probably won the conference, but they were ousted early on in the Mountain West tournament. And also them losing their big center and big man Magoon Guaf to a knee injury at the end of February that kept him out all the way till tournament time. So he was out, I believe, the last regular season home game, and then out for the entire, for the tournament, conference tournament, but they lost in round one. Then there was the arguments about Boise State they should have gotten in. Indiana should have gotten in. Maybe West Virginia. I know it was like in everyone's last four in, but somehow, some way, State sneaks in. Then there's the big controversy about UNC, and then stories coming out from The Athletic that I read today after they beat the daylights out of San Diego State on Tuesday. They dropped 98, 95 points on the Aztecs, in a game that was over like 5 minutes into the ball game because State could not. And I think that I heard it right, though, on the radio, and salute to Ted Leitner for his 46th and final year working in San Diego sports media. But he said it right, though, that the Aztecs looked overwhelmed. And I also remember hearing, though, Carolina is going to have a chip on their shoulder to tell the world, we don't deserve to be here. Look at the scoreboard. So, Brandon, maybe in your mind, where were the snubs maybe, like in Indiana, maybe a West Virginia or a Boise State? And what about your thoughts, too, Brandon, about seeing UNC, kind of facing the wrath of the American public, and then they went out there and pummeled in SDSU's brains?
Yeah, I mean, the snubs, I think you kind of hit the snubs very well. North Carolina, like you said, with, like Duke being the number one and stuff like that, it's the sexy name. It's the name, that we kind of rely to see in the tournament. And for them to be on the bubble is just like, oh, wait, what's going on here? So I do believe North Carolina is going to have a chip on their shoulder to show that they should have been in there. Maybe not as high as they were. Maybe could have been the last team in. I guess they kind of were with that bubble, that playing game. But
sure,
yeah, they put a licking on, and it'll be interesting to see how far. That's one of the teams I'm watching for to see how far they go this year.
Welcoming on our good man, James Gonzalez, the co-host of C2C at 9, and, of course, the lead host of On Deck Entertainment Hour. Big game, James. Brandon and I have just kind of been, talking in general about March Madness, our thoughts on the top four seeds, and also, those snubs. I said, James, on Press Row about a week or so ago that there's always going to be snubs, but I still feel like, though, that March Madness, where it's at right now, is still the best college athletics postseason, along with baseball and softball, with how they operate with the regionals and its double elimination or a modified double elimination. James, first and foremost, though, man, what, though, for you, does March Madness mean to you? Is it about the buzzer beaters, schools who go on those improbable Cinderella runs, or is it just about the pure chaos and utter lunacy that March Madness brings you every single year?
Yeah, I'm always looking forward to this time of year and this tournament based on the three things you said. And then hoping for all those things to happen literally in every game. Literally hoping for, an upset in every game in every bracket. And this year, there's a lot of them that could happen in the first round, watching Selection Sunday. And the first one without Greg Gumbel. So that was kind of melancholy, I think. But I've got my eyes on certain teams that I want to upset teams, and the buzzer beaters, that just comes with the situations of the games. I know we already had one in that was it Alabama State game?
Oh, that game was amazing.
Unfortunately, that made me think of that play. If you dissect it, it makes me think of the 1972 USA versus the USSR play.
Oh, they kept putting time back on the clock every single time. Yes.
Well, not that per se, but just the way that play happened, where bodies are on the floor, and then one person was there to just lay it up and in, and then the buzzer went off for the game winner, just based on that. But I'm looking at the other ones, and of course San Diego State didn't show up, and I guess North Carolina does have a chip. I just got in when you guys were talking about the snubs, and I was thinking about Ohio State, Indiana. Nah, I would watch them on CBS a lot on Sunday mornings or Saturday mornings, and it didn't seem like they would have got in my opinion, anyway, without winning the Big Ten. I think the biggest one though could have been West Virginia, just based on the quad wins that they use now. The metrics that they use, they didn't use it.
So damn confusing though.
They didn't use it toward the decision, and the fact that AD from North Carolina, Bubba, whomever was there.
Bubba Cunningham.
He's the big guy right now. He allegedly said, "Oh, I wasn't in the room when the selection of UNC got in," but I think they said he would make $100,000 extra if they got into the tournament. So I'm just saying a conspiracy. I love a basketball conspiracy.
You're just saying, but we're also just saying.
yeah. But they can use it as full fuel though, and they did it against San Diego State. But I love the what do you call it? I just love the upsets. Give me all of that.
All the upsets and more. James, also real quick, thoughts about if they got the top 4 seeds right: Auburn, Duke, along with Florida and Houston.
Yeah, Florida deserved it. I mean, they're a team. It just seems like they're built and they're deep, and they play a controlled chaos of defense, and that's why I like to see it. It really helps at tournament time. You saw that kind of the opposite with UConn the last couple of years, where they played a controlled chaos of offense, where everybody was scoring, everybody was touching the ball, but everybody, slams the hardwood collectively, it seems like, for Florida. So I can see why they got in. Auburn, all because of Broom, and I saw him play last year, and I really, really enjoyed watching him play and rebound. And now this year he's taking his game to the next level. Unfortunately, they didn't win the SEC, but it just showed you how crazy that conference was, getting 14 schools in. But I think number one, Auburn, I think that was the right call on that. Going to the Midwest, you see Houston. Now, you could say, hey, because of the conference they play in, right? The American, what is it called? The American Coast, no, AAC or whatever it is.
American Athletic Conference.
There it is. Thank you. That's the one. They always get 1 or 2, and they're always ranked top 5 or top 8, right? So it seems like they play in the easy conference. So I think they got him based on that. You could say, hey, they had maybe a cupcake schedule, but other from a few teams in their conference. But a 30-4 record definitely deserves that. And then you look at Duke, of course, 31-3 because of the record, because of Cooper Flag, and then everyone else around him. I think that momentum just going into the ACC tournament really helped out. But you always knew that Duke was going to be there. They're always there, and I'm just praying for an upset. But yeah, all the ones definitely deserved to get that. Alabama lost in the SEC tournament, so that's why they were 2. Tennessee, you would believe the SEC was too stacked to get another one in there to win that. But St. John's, I think, could have got one, winning that tournament. But I think the SEC was too strong. So maybe a number 1 snub would have been St. John's, in my opinion, with the 30-4 record.
Fair.
I really think so.
All right, gents, let's get into the nitty-gritty now and actually fill out this bracket on ESPN.com. If you folks would like to fill out your bracket and join the C2C group, you can do so. Follow the instructions on the bottom line. Again, you can go to ESPN.com, click on the men's tournament challenge page, and then search in the group directory Coast to Coast Entertainment and use the password C2C2024 and get started today and get those brackets in. Again, the brackets will lock at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning on Thursday. All right, guys, let's get to our first matchup. We'll go from we'll start in the South region, I should say. We'll go with, guys, Auburn versus Alabama State. The Hornets winning that improbable game, as James alluded to, on Tuesday night to get the first four started. I think we're all in favor, guys, of Auburn not losing to a 16 seed. Brandon, what do you got, my friend?
Well, first off, if we have the perfect bracket, we're going to split the money 3 ways, right, guys?
Let's go. Yes, we are.
All right. Yeah, I don't think Auburn's going to lose this game. So yeah, I got Auburn going.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, how about you?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Alabama State. I think they're playing the Sun Belt, correct?
I believe they're in the SWAC, I heard.
SWAC. Okay. Well, anyway, 19 and
0 Deeds calling all the games this week.
I had to hear him in that Big Ten tournament, I think, all weekend long. On CBS. Yeah, Auburn should win that pretty easily. 28-5 record. They just get to Broom, get him the ball. Facilitate. He's just going to be a threat all tournament long. So no doubt Auburn wins.
All right, so Auburn is the consensus pick for the first matchup. Next game, guys, is a good one. 27-7, 8 seed Louisville facing 24-10, 9 seed, and Callan McClurg's beloved Creighton Blue Jays out of the Big East Conference. James, I heard a great colleague, Braden Soprenin, on 97.3 The Fan in San Diego earlier today, right? 9s versus 8s is not as much of an upset as people might think it is. It's kind of like a 4 versus 5, like in the NBA postseason, the NHL postseason, or baseball.
Right.
So, James, you got Louisville coming in here at 27-7 and a 24-10 Big East runner-up in Creighton facing off in this matchup, 8 versus 9. James, you like the Cardinals or the Blue Jays?
St. Louis or Toronto here? No. Man.
Louisville, Kentucky, or Omaha, Nebraska?
For years I never knew where Creighton was, but now I know, of course.
There you go.
Because of you. Man, I really want to pick Creighton, and I think they live and die by their 3-point shooting. That's unfortunately like everyone's MO. Unless you have someone to dominate inside. But their big men just seem to hang outside. They win and lose games outside. To me,
Kalkbrenner's more of a guy who will stay down low. I mean, he might get a couple threes off, but
the other guy, man.
Yeah, Steve, they have Stephen Ashworth and they got Ryan Kalkbrenner, who, I mean, they've been there, it feels like forever.
Yeah, they don't leave. They don't leave, and that's a good thing. Louisville, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched much of them, but their record looks really good at 27-7. Creighton just seems like a team where if their shots fall, they're gonna win. I'm gonna go with number 9, Creighton.
All right. So, Brandon, we got 1 vote for Creighton over Louisville. Again, 9 versus 8. And like I said, Brandon, it's not that much of a big deal upset, I would say, when it's 8 versus 9, because, again, these teams are so close. Again, it's a 3-win difference, but also, I mean, yeah, we could say Louisville, power conference, Creighton, semi-power conference in college basketball. So, Brandon, Louisville or Creighton?
Yeah, it's one of those matchups. They always talk 8-9s are always tough to pick, but I'm going to go with Creighton. Like Dave says, and I know we can say about a lot of teams, if their shots fall, they're going to win. But I think Creighton's that type of team where they need to play their game.
I mean, I got the jersey on for a reason, so give me my beloved Creighton Blue Jays out of the Big East Conference. But again, I think this will solely fall on whether or not Ashworth gets his shots to fall and if Kalkbrenner is able to control the paint down low for the Jays. But again, 8 versus 9, a bird will move on to face Auburn in our bracket right now. So, take it for what it is. Next game, guys, talk about an improbable run. It's not the number 5 seed. It's the first ever time for UC San Diego. As a small disclaimer, folks, that is not the school I work at. This happens all the time. People think I work at UC San Diego. I work at USD, which is not the same thing. Regardless, the Tritons, who at one point, folks, were a Division III school here in San Diego in my backyard about 25 minutes north of me in La Jolla, went from Division III into Division II, ruled the roost for quite a bit in Division II, and then all of a sudden, they are now Division I. And in their first year of eligibility to win the Big West tournament regular season and the tournament championship, they send both the men's team and the women's team in their first year to March Madness. And they get a date with 5 seed Michigan, who somehow, some way, big game James and Big B, they survived so many close games over what felt like the whole season. And I wonder, though, if that luck continues. But I think James and Brandon, I think all of us know, though, the 12 versus 5 is what scares me every year. And as soon as I saw this was announced, not for my hometown bias, but I'm like, this is the one. I feel like this is definitely the one where it could be a monumental upset. This could easily be, this will be, if it happens, the single greatest victory in Triton athletic history, from D3 to D2 now here to their time in D1. James, you've seen this team. I've seen this team up close and personal. Great down-low presence. Guys who can shoot the threes like Stephen Ashworth, as we mentioned with Creighton, but a whole team being together, as we have kind of said, though, and Eric Olam will probably be getting some other offers to leave UC San Diego. So, James, Tritons from the Big West or the Big Ten-led Michigan Wolverines?
Yeah, I got to watch UC San Diego. I think it was about a month ago. They played UC Davis. It was a home game here. Beautiful campus, beautiful area, of course, and just a beautiful brand of basketball. They played all year long this season and last year, too, when they weren't eligible. They really moved the ball around, and they literally do anything you ask them to do or anything you think is going to happen, they'll do. They'll hit their threes, they'll drive and kick, then they'll drive and make layups and create and ones, and they play pretty solid defense, I would think. But I want to pick them, but it's like, damn, they haven't played anybody other from when you think about Utah State.
I was just going to say they played a fellow team in the field and they boat raced them in Logan, Utah.
Yeah, and that's when you thought, wow, they might be really something. The 4 losses did come, I think, in conference play, but still.
They also had a loss earlier in the season at San Diego State, but they lost by 5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so 3 of the losses.
They were in the game all the way to the very end.
And I should have been watching. It's probably on the night I was working. But, yeah, with Michigan, I was watching them, make their presence felt in the Big Ten tournament. They probably wouldn't have. I think they would be right there with Ohio State as a snub if they didn't win the conference. If they're
without a doubt.
But they play really, really tough, and I'm thinking UC San Diego hasn't really played anybody tough.
James, real quick before you give your selection, why is it though that if you can see this bracket, folks, I'm very surprised. I think Brandon might agree when we get to Brandon. I'm perplexed. How does Michigan, who wins the tournament, get a 5 seed, yet the team who lost, Wisconsin, look the other side of the bracket, they're a 3? That part is kind of confusing to me.
Maybe because they have 3 more wins.
Possibly.
Oh no, one more win, 26-9. That's all I could think of. And then, of course, the new metrics could be a thing as well, where
Ken Palm, net rankings, quad 1, quad 2. Yeah, who cares? What does the win-loss record say is all that matters to me.
A lot of that might be because of that. Screw it. I'm gonna lock into UC San Diego.
Okay.
I just feel confident in the way that they're shooting, the way that they're playing defense. Michigan hasn't really played a team like this yet, where they'll be outran, they'll be faster than Michigan. I feel like Michigan hasn't played anybody like that this year. And again, these 12 and 5s are so much fun, and you kind of really don't know which way to go, but I'm leaning toward what I saw with my own eyes this season.
So, Brandon, Big Ten country, Michigan, again, I think, though, deservedly so, a 5 seed winning the Big Ten tournament. But I feel like, though, Brandon, they just did not seem like they played their best basketball. Like, there's so many late-game comebacks, so many, miracle finishes that they had. I think I saw a stat that they had won, 6 games by, under 4 points, and they were trailing into most of them. Then, of course, Brandon, you have this, hot shot new toy. This is a university, Brandon. in their first year of eligibility making the tournament, and they have to face Michigan, where again, though it's a 12 versus 5, and historically, Brandon, 12s have had the better of the 5s in the past several years, if not all time, it feels like. So, Big B, are you going to root for the Wolverines or root for Southern California instead in UC San Diego?
Man, that's a tough one because, I mean, listening to you and James talk about how San Diego went from D3 to D2, D1. Kind of sounds like we got a new Gonzaga on the team where, they're coming out of nowhere. They're in the tournament for the first time. They're flying on cloud 9. And then you get the Michigan team, like you said, has battled to come back a lot, won the Big Ten tournament, which again, you talk about Wisconsin. Well, Michigan State's ranked number 2, but that's coming down the road. You 5-12, yeah, they do scare me, but you got to go with the kids that have been together probably since day one together with that San Diego team. So I'm going to lock in with James and go with UC San Diego.
San Diego versus everybody. My school may not have made it, but gosh darn it, we had 2 teams make it. So I got to go with the Tritons. I mean, I'd be stupid not to pick my hometown. And like James said, though, I got to see UCSD play at USD earlier this season, and I just loved how they played. I love their down low presence with the Niwa Tate Jones, who I saw play Division II at a Hawaii Hilo, and then they got a lot of guys who can spot up and just nail threes. That will be very much important. But hey, we all like the Tritons here. We all like the Big West over the Big Ten. Next game, James. 4 seed A&M, 13 seed Yale. Can the Bulldogs stun the world again? James, what do you got for this one?
I haven't watched Yale this year, but I know that they won that the tournament that they play in.
The Ivy League.
Ivy League, and I haven't watched anything about Texas A&M, I'll be honest with you. But a lot of people have been picking Yale. I think Seth Davis had both UC San Diego and Yale in this bracket. I'm going to go his way, even though he had some crazy takes on Sunday. But I think Yale upsets Texas A&M. I really do.
Okay, Brandon, we have 1 vote for Yale to pull off their second upset in a row. How about you? The Bulldogs in the Ivy League or Texas A&M out of the SEC?
Oh, man. Yeah, I know Yale, pulled the upset last year. I don't know if we can see it twice in a row, so I'm going to go Texas A&M on this one.
Ooh, so now we have a tiebreaker to select here. James is voting for Yale. Brandon's on A&M side. One wonders, though, about the 13 versus 4 kind of in a way being this. I believe San Diego, when they beat UConn, we were a 13, I want to say, when we knocked out UConn in 2008. You know what? Screw it. We want upsets, then give me the upset. Let's go with Yale over A&M on this one. We'll move on, James, to our next game. 6 seed Ole Miss. They were waiting in the wings to see who would win that first 4 matchup between UNC and San Diego State. Well, the Heels blitzkrieg San Diego State to get in, so it's officially Ole Miss SEC versus UNC out of the ACC. Mr. Gonzalez, Rebs or the Heels?
I just feel like the Tar Heels, they're on a mission right now. Ole Miss, it seems like just hobbled in. Yeah, I got to go with the Tar Heels. I feel like they're going to win this one.
All right, Brandon. So we got 1 vote for the Heels after winning their first 4 matchup over 6 seed Ole Miss. How about you?
Yeah, I think just history and, the team probably thinks that they should be there no matter what. I'm going with North Carolina. I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder for the whole tournament until they lose.
All in favor. I also think that in a way, now it's not really a advantage. I think playing the game to get in kind of helps. I think, though, this is a prove it to the world moment for UNC to say, hey, for everyone who's been, giving us flack, okay, we just wiped the floor clean with a team that was in the finals 2 years ago. What more do you want us to do? Well, now you can go out there and beat Ole Miss. Next game, James, on the docket. 3rd seed Iowa State, 14 seed Lipscomb, the Bisons out of the A-Sun Conference against Iowa State. James, Cyclones or the Bisons? Yes, it is Bisons, not Bison. It is Bisons.
Odd. Okay. Yeah, Iowa State has been really good all year long. I know they have similar records here, but I'm gonna go with the Cyclones. I think they're gonna easily beat Lipscomb.
All right, so we have one vote in place for Iowa State. Brandon, you're going to go with the Cyclones or the Bisons out of Lipscomb?
Yeah, I think the Cyclones' history here. They always make it fun to watch. I mean, they're ranked 3rd. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Iowa State. I think they're gonna, toy with the Bisons.
Yeah, all in favor for Iowa State, 3 versus 14. Iowa State, though, they've been a very well-coached team the past several years. They've also, I think, had a couple of deep runs, so we'll go Cyclones over the Bisons from Lipscomb. Next game, James, intriguing. 7 seed Marquette, 10 seed New Mexico, who was the kind of the favorite to win the Mountain West Conference. They were bumped out, though, by a red-hot Colorado State team who got hot at the right time. They'll face the legendary Marquette Golden Eagles from the Big East. Big East versus Mountain West. James, Golden Eagles or the Lobos?
This one is very tough because I've seen New Mexico in a lot of games, and they play a really, really tough game, especially at the pit at home. It's impossible to win for road teams. You have the atmosphere, the hemisphere, thin air, whatever you want to say. It's really, really a tough place to win in the Mountain West. Marquette, man, they're a team as well. I'll watch, on a Saturday morning, during the week, at night, or in the afternoon, I should say. They're always playing, in a good conference there. But I'm going to go with New Mexico. I think they just have that energy, and maybe they can make a deep run here. Well, maybe not, but I'm going to go New Mexico over Marquette.
All right, Brandon, 1 vote for UNM over Marquette. So kind of an upset, 10-7. Brandon, what say you, Marquette or New Mexico?
Yeah, both teams we see a lot in the tournament that, they go in hot and then they kind of stall out in the first couple rounds. I'm going to go Marquette on this one.
So another tiebreak coming up. By the way, record-wise, for those wondering, UNM 26-7, Marquette 23-10. The overall record kind of feels like it's the tiebreaker. So you know what? We want upsets. We'll get an upset here with New Mexico over Marquette. Next game, guys, Michigan State, number 2 seed against the 15th seed Bryant Bears, making it in from the, I believe, the Mid-Atlantic or the MEAC out in the East Coast. James, I think I saw somewhere that Fox Sports calls Tom Izzo Mr. March because of how he's always in with Michigan State. James, the Spartans or the Bears?
Yeah, I was watching a interview. I think it was on McAfee's show with Izzo, and somebody also called him like January and February of those, and how he feels like he revs up January and February, and then Mr. March comes out, and I think it's going to be too much for the Bryant Bears. But it's good to see him back in the tournament. But yeah, I got to go Sparty with that.
All right, Brandon, 1 vote for Sparty over Bryant. How about you?
Yeah, that's going to be 2 because, like you guys said, it just seems like Izzo, just prepares this team every year to be in the tournament, and they're getting that love every year. So yeah, I'm going Michigan State.
Yep, all in favor for Michigan State over Bryant. Let's guys go down and let's head out west for the next part of the bracket. First up, James, Florida versus Norfolk State. Again, the Spartans of Norfolk State. Again, they got in. I believe they also had their own upset. I want to say fairly recently. At least they were pretty dang close to pulling it off, though. But James, Florida, Norfolk State, who do you got?
This is going to be easy win for Florida. They're just going to dominate this game. Yeah, I'm going Gators.
All right, 1 vote for the Gators. Brandon, do you foresee a potential upset here involving Norfolk State over Florida?
Well, if I don't go with my co-host of C2C Rankum's team, I'll probably hear it on Tuesday. So Yeah, if you're the old saying is if you're not with the Gators, your Gator meters up.
Gator
So yeah, I'm going with the Gators.
Yeah, all in favor for them Gators in round 1. Next game up, James, 8 seed UConn. Yes, the defending back-to-back national champs after a dismal end of a season. Dan Hurley caught catching a lot of strays. Still, though, a respectable 23-10 season for UConn. 20-win Oklahoma opposes the Huskies, so SEC versus Big East. James, UConn for at least one victory, or Oklahoma to end a very torrid season for the Huskies after winning back-to-back natties.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate just the way that UConn season has gone. I mean, it seems like they limped into the tournament. They just didn't have the same, talent as the last couple of years. Dan Hurley just, he's costed them some games as well. I feel like, with
especially in
technicals and
Maui
Albert.
early in the season.
Yeah, that was wild.
That right there kind of felt like it was the defining moment of their season. And I think it also proved, though, how hard it is for a team to win not just one, but win back-to-back national titles. And now, especially going for a three-peat, I think the pressure finally got to him. And then Dan Hurley lost his mind. It seemed like almost every game day, win or lose. And I think, recently, the whole beef with Creighton after the dude dunked the ball to really end the game. And I think Doug McDermott, I'm wearing his jersey, but Greg McDermott had to, pull coach aside and said, hey, freshman, he didn't know what was going on, like in a way, and he had to apologize. So, James, your thoughts though, UConn, Oklahoma, who you got?
Man, I didn't watch much of Oklahoma, but I watched a lot of UConn. Yeah, I don't know anything about Oklahoma, but man, I'm gonna go UConn just based on who they are. But it's gonna be a really close game. Those 8 and 9s, like you mentioned, are like 4 and 5s in the NBA in the first round. So, but I'm gonna go UConn.
All right, Brandon, one vote for UConn. Your thoughts, UConn or Oklahoma?
I know UConn had their struggles. Oklahoma, is there 8-9. I got to go with the champs until they're beaten, so this might be a one and done, but I'm going UConn to start that march to a three-peat.
Ric Flair said to be the man, you got to beat the man. Well, UConn's got the vote from the panel here for this one. The next heebie-jeebie scare the crap out of you 5 versus 12, James. 5 seed Memphis, but 12 seed Colorado State, Mountain West champs, taking on Memphis in the 5 versus 12 here in the West region. James, the Tigers or the Rams?
I think maybe Memphis is going to be missing a player with a big injury, but they've had a great year all year long, and Haggerty has been awesome. I don't know much about this Colorado State team, but they went on a good 2-week run.
Got hot at the right time. We always say that.
Those are always the most dangerous schools and the most hottest schools, right? I don't want to do it here. I already did a big upset 5 or 12 over 5, but a lot of people are going Colorado State. But I'm gonna hold true with Memphis. I'm gonna say Memphis wins.
All right, Brandon, one vote for Memphis, the 5 seed over 12 seed Colorado State. How about you, the Rams or the Tigers?
Ah, man, that's a tough. I mean, yeah, we got a 5-12 upset already. You don't see too many of them, and Colorado State, just within the next month could be a big, college there with some guys going pro in the NBA or NFL and stuff. So, but I'm going to go with Memphis because they've been around the block a few times. They've gone deep, so I'm going to go Memphis.
Even though I picked the Rams in my other bracket, but for coast-to-coast purposes, I think I would probably go Memphis here, though I think that the Rams can pull off the upset, but I think that Memphis will probably have a little bit more at their disposal, injuries or not. Next up, James, 4 seed Maryland, the Terrapins getting back in from the Big Ten. They're facing an intriguing 13 seed Grand Canyon Lopes Club out of the WAC, soon to be in the Mountain West Conference in a couple of years. So, James, the Lopes or the Terrapins?
I love this matchup. When this came out, I thought to myself, man, I'm intrigued by it. Grand Canyon has a better record somewhat, but
it's also the WAC versus the Big Ten, though.
That's the only issue. And Maryland, this feels like, man, they finally have risen back. It seems like a long journey since when they were really, really good with Gary Williams coaching and all the other players and all that.
Jake Layman.
I didn't even know you went there. I go back to Blake and Juan Dixon and all those guys from back then. I saw GCU play in their conference tournament twice. I haven't watched much of Maryland. I'm going with GCU. I'm going with the big upset. Yeah, I'm going with GCU.
All right, Brandon, we have another upset here. We got Grand Canyon in James's mind upsetting Maryland 13-4. How about you, the Lopes or the Terrapins?
I gotta go with Big Ten in this one. I gotta go Maryland.
James will be the man on the island, I think, though, just because. And I think, James, though, it's a very fair point, though.
It will be a good game.
This might be probably one of the better games on the schedule. I think, though, sadly, it boils down to WAC versus Big Ten. Now you can say, well, wait a minute, y'all just picked UCSD to beat Michigan. That's the Big West beating the Big Ten. Well, it's 12 versus 5. This is a 13 versus 4. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Grand Canyon probably keeps it close, but I think Maryland's going to probably move on here into the round of 32. Next game up, James. This will be a good one, I think, too, if you ask me. 6 seed Mizzou out of the SEC facing off with the Drake Bulldogs at number 11, 6 versus 11. So, James, you got the Tigers out of Mizzou or the Drake Bulldogs? Who do you got?
I haven't really trusted Missouri this year. I don't know why. Even being a 6 seed, I really haven't. Drake, they're the only Drake winning lately in society. 30-3 record. They're just really, really, really good. Shoot the lights out of the building. A lot of people are really going with them, and I'm going with them. I'm going Drake over Missouri, 11-6.
So another upset here, Brandon, with James picking Drake over Missouri. So do you have, in your mind, the Drake Bulldogs or the Tigers out of Mizzou?
Yeah, it's probably the only time we're going to probably say a Bulldog can probably take down a Tiger. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Drake.
Wow, all in favor of Drake over Missouri at 11-6 in the West region. Yeah, I think that even though that we probably could have went the other way with the upset, though, 13 versus 4 or 14-3, 11 versus 6, though, is still like very dang close in that realm, though, of upsets. Next game up, James, in the West region. This might be a good game, too. We have here, let me double check the actual bracket in my lap here. 3 seed Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, going 25-8 against the little-known UNC Wilmington Seahawks, who went 27-7 in their conference. So, James, the Red Raiders, a team named the Raiders that has already done better than the Las Vegas Raiders, sad to say, against a intriguing, I think, ball club from UNC Wilmington in the Seahawks. So, in kind of a NFL matchup, James, Seahawks or the Red Raiders?
I'm intrigued to pick the Seahawks because their only big loss, notable loss, was against Kansas. It was by 22, but that was all the way in November. But they took care of the rest of their conference schedule pretty well. But it really wasn't like anybody knowable, of course. Texas Tech, wins and losses here and there in their conference. They did lose to Iowa State earlier in the year, but they did beat Arizona and Houston too. So those are big wins when you think about it, and Baylor as well. This is so damn tough for this one. I really want to go with the Seahawks of Wilmington, but I'm going to go safe with Texas Tech and hope that I'm wrong, but I'm going Texas Tech.
All right, Brandon. So we have a vote for Texas Tech right now to make it into the round of 32. How about you, the Seahawks of UNC Wilmington or the Red Raiders out of Texas Tech in Lubbock?
Yeah, we got to give some Raider love. I think Texas Tech will take care of business there.
Yeah, great year, though, by the way, for UNCW. Again, 20 games over 500 in a very little-known conference out on the East Coast. But, yeah, Texas Tech gets everyone's vote here for that matchup. Next game, guys. Get your popcorn ready for this one. 7-seed Kansas, led by Bill Self. 10-seed Arkansas in the first season of John Calipari not being at Kentucky. James, this is pure cinema in this half of the bracket in the West. The chances of Rick Pitino in the next game after this one, but also, James, Bill Self, the Rock Chalk Jayhawks, and the Arkansas Razorbacks, led by Calipari, two shoe-in future Hall of Famers, going toe-to-toe in round one. It's a shame, though, that one of these Hall of Fame coaches has to lose, though, in round one. So, James, Rock Chalk or Pig Suey?
There's so many correlations here with the two coaches. I believe at Kansas, Kapari was there, and then Self took a spot as being an assistant way back in the day. So it's just funny how this is all have worked out. Kansas, I know we talked about them. Maybe not. I think getting that 7th seed was kind of a gift. I felt like
Joel Lenardi called it, sadly.
Yeah. Arkansas, I haven't really watched them play, but I know they brought in a lot of good recruits for Calipari there. But Hunter Dickinson, you can't really. They did beat Duke this year in Iowa State. Well, they split with Iowa State, but Dickinson, I don't know if this will be his last college year, or maybe he'll hang on for another. But he's so good inside and outside. I don't know if anybody on Arkansas can really guard him and shut him down. I think it's going to come down to Hunter. I'm going to go Kansas, but this game I can't wait for.
Brandon, like I said, this is a pure cinema matchup, my man. Self versus Calipari, different schools, though, or different school for Calipari at Arkansas. So, Brandon, once more, are you going to roll with Bill Self and the Rock Chalk Jayhawks, or roll, though, with Pig Suey and the Razorbacks, led by Calipari?
Man, God, how can you count a Calipari team out? I mean, that's going to be tough. I think James nailed it that this is going to be a good matchup. I can't count against Calipari right now, so I'm going to go with Arkansas.
Ooh, and now we have a tie-breaking vote for Kansas and Arkansas. Both these two coaches are going to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame pretty soon. And I think it's been great, though, that Calipari's now been successful not being at Kentucky here at Arkansas. But sadly, I think the master still leads the student. I'm going to be going with Kansas over Calipari in Arkansas. I really think so with this one. So we'll go with Kansas over Arkansas. Next up, James, another great Renaissance story. Rick Pitino, after his ousting from Louisville. St. John's University bringing some life back to college basketball in New York. They face 15 seed, the Omaha Mavericks, coming in to play the Red Storm from St. John's University, Ron Artest's alma mater. So, James, Red Storm or the Mavericks, who are a better Mavericks team than that team in Dallas?
Oh, I was thinking about the lefty Chris Mullin and Mark Jackson back in the 80s, too, when Lou Carnesecca was coaching them. Rest in peace. Man, they just been giants all year long, St. John's, and the fact that they, won that Yeah, they won that conference tournament. It was great. But Omaha, it's just been a great story. They have the kid, or not the kid. Well, maybe he's a kid. I don't know. But he'll go out there leading the team out with like a TikTok kind of speaker or whatever that crap is. Anyway, that's the only reason that I think people know about him. They do have a great scoring average of Sutton there, but RJ Lewis inside is just beast, or outside has been beasting. But Zuby, LA Kafour, I've watched him play. He's a beast inside, and I don't know if they have anybody that would guard him inside. Look out for him to have a big conference or a big game, or big tournament, I should say. Elijah Four, I think is his name, but I got to go with St. John's here. But Omaha has been a great story.
All right, Brandon, one vote for the Red Storm over the Mavericks. How about you, St. John's or Omaha?
Yeah, with Patino being there for his first year, getting them to, like you said, relevancy again. St. John's should win this one. I am going to pick St. John's, but it would not shock me much if Omaha wins it. But I'm going to St. John's.
I'm going St. John's too. Great story. Patino going there, resurrecting his career. Let's go, guys, out east. First stop, guys, is Duke facing Mount St. Mary's, who won the first four game on Wednesday. We'll skip over that and just say Duke because we're not going to pick the upset for this one. Let's move on, guys, to the 8 versus 9 in the East region. Mississippi State and the Bulldogs hosting the 9-seed Baylor Bears in round number 1 from the East region. All right, James, Bulldogs or the Bears?
This one is tough too. Baylor, other from one win against Kansas, didn't do well against good competitors. They lost to Tennessee, lost to Iowa State, lost to Arizona, lost to Houston twice. That just didn't fare well in their conference. But Mississippi State didn't do well as well. God, I don't even know. I'm going to go Baylor. I think that's tough. But, yeah, I'm going to go with the Bears. But both teams probably won't make it past whoever wins, they won't make it past the second round.
All right, Brandon, we have one vote for the Baylor Bears. Who do you got, Bears or the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I mean, both teams struggled throughout the year. Like James said, I'm going to go, I'm with James. It doesn't matter who wins this game because they're going to go up against Duke and probably lose anyway. So I'll go Mississippi State, make you break the tie.
Yeah, and I'll break the tie by going with Baylor in this game because I think regardless of what we just said, it won't really matter when you have to play Duke. All right, James, next up is another 5v12. The Oregon Ducks out of the Big Ten will face 12-seed Liberty. The Flames are in for this one here. All right, James, 12-seed Liberty. You got the Flames or the Ducks?
Liberty, I know has been a good shooting team, but Dana Altman has just been amazing for so many years. 24 wins on the year. Probably a Hall of Famer pretty soon. But, yeah, I'm going with Oregon in this one.
All right, Brandon, one vote for the Ducks out of Oregon in the Big Ten Conference. Makes no sense still. Brandon, how about you, the Flames or the Ducks?
Yeah, that is weird. That is weird to see and say the Big Ten Oregon Ducks. I gotta quack with the Ducks here, just in honor of our good friend Vic, one of the founders of C2C, passed away a few years ago. So she was a big Ducks fan. I'm going Ducks.
And I will say to that, we'll go with the Ducks over the Liberty Flames in the 12 versus 5. All right, James, next game out east. This might be intriguing in some ways. 4-seed Arizona facing the 13-seed University of Akron Zips in the A10 Conference, making it in 13 versus 4. All right, James, Arizona from the Big 12 against Akron from the A10. James, you like the Zips or the Wildcats?
This one is a very tough matchup. VCU, I just saw win their conference tournament on Sunday. I think it was one of the last games for the
Mhm.
docket. They beat George Mason, I think, in Washington. That's the only like championship matchup that's been at that arena basketball wise this past few years. BYU, they've had a odd year, but they've
Oh,
had
James, I'm
some
sorry.
really
We're
good
doing
wins.
Arizona
Oh,
versus
I'm sorry.
Akron.
I'm going ahead of myself, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna say Arizona. I know they had a rough year, but like 12 losses is a rough year for Arizona. Getting used to being in the Big 12, which is awful. Yeah, but I'm gonna go Arizona.
All right, Brandon, one vote for Arizona over the Akron Zips. For those who are wondering, by the way, the Zip mascot is a kangaroo. Those for anyone who was wondering.
Mhm.
So, Brandon, Zips or the Wildcats?
I'm going Wildcats. Arizona's just that history behind them. I think Akron going to put up a good showing. This might be a good 4-13 matchup, maybe an overtime game. But I'll go with the Wildcats.
I think this is like the second or third year that we've seen Akron make the tournament field, but I got to go with Arizona. I mean, Akron, like Brandon said, they could probably keep the game close, maybe pull off the upset, but we'll go with Arizona in that 4 versus 13. All right, James, how about this one now? BYU out of the Big 12 Conference versus I feel like a staple, though, recently of the tournament, though, Virginia Commonwealth University now being called VCU. So in this one, James, Rams or the Cougars?
Yeah, it always started with Shaka Smart when he was at VCU coaching there. That was always just awesome. I think it was right or Wichita State. I can't
I
remember
think it was
which
at
one.
Wichita State, yeah.
That's what it was. But VCU in that time frame, they were also building up
Very
their
much so,
team.
yes.
That's why I get confused with the colors, I think, too, and you only see them in this time. But I'm struggling with this one, like I mentioned earlier. I picked BYU in this tournament thing here, but I'm going back and forth. Like I'm going to be going back and forth with
Flip
this
the coin, damn it.
VCU.
Oh, okay. So, Brandon, one vote for VCU to pull off the upset. How about you,
Yeah.
BYU or VCU?
Yeah, I'm with James. Kind of back and forth. Um, you know, got it. Cal, let's see what you got. I'm gonna go BYU on this one.
I got to sadly go BYU. I mean, as much as they were a conference rival for a long time against USD and the WCC. I just think, though, that BYU has the experience. They have the pedigree. I mean, they've always been a very good basketball program, though I love VCU with how they have been over the past several years. I got to go BYU in this one. We'll move on now to our next game, fellas. 3-seed Wisconsin, the Badgers out of the Big Ten Conference, facing the Big Sky's Montana Grizz, not Grizzlies, the Grizz from Christie's home state of Montana. James, you got on Wisconsin or the Grizz pull off the upset from Montana?
I think Wisconsin is going to be more grizzly in this game than the Grizz. They play tough, and I don't know anything much about Montana, but Montana's in trouble. So I'm going to go Wisconsin.
All right, Brandon, one vote for the arch rivals in Madison over Montana. Who do you got here, the Badges or the Grizz?
Yeah, I got to go with the arch rival. Got to go with the Badgers. They seem to always show up. It's a Big Ten, tradition though too. You get a good group of teams in, and then they don't make it that far. So we'll see how far Wisconsin can go.
On Wisconsin, jump around. Let's go. Christy Wilson writes in, can't see, guys, Montana beating Wisconsin. Believe me, though, I would love for them to pull off the upset. I mean, hey, we share your pain, though, with a lot of, like even like SDSU. Like they got to the final game, but they lost to UConn 2 years ago. All right, guys, next game on the schedule out east, 7-seed St. Mary's of California, the Gales, the West Coast Conference champs, facing 10-seed Vanderbilt out of the SEC. So, James, the Gales out of Moraga, California, or the Commodores out of Tennessee in Vanderbilt? What you got?
All right. Is it GAELS?
That is a factual statement.
Okay. I'm going to go with them. Vanderbilt, it just feels like they've had an awful time, other from beating Tennessee this year and Kentucky. They've lost to everyone else. It seems like in the that was good in the conference. So sorry, Lionel Richie. I'm going St. Mary's.
All right, Brandon. One vote for St. Mary's out of the WCC over the SEC. Mr. Herrera, you got the Gales or the Commodores?
Well, if you can't beat the good teams in your conference and you struggle against them, it's hard to pull for you. But I'm going to go St. Mary's.
I need to see some WCC teams make a bit of a run here so we can get some more money once we lose Gonzaga. So I will take the Gales over Vanderbilt in that matchup. Next up, James, on the schedule for this one. This will be interesting. This may or may not be interesting, but it's going to be 2-seed Alabama facing 15-seed Robert Morris. The Colonials make it into the tournament this year out of their conference. So, James, Roll Tide or the Colonials out of Robert Morris University?
Sadly, I'm going to go with Alabama, but I think Alabama's also going through some injuries, but I think this game is close up until maybe like the 8-minute mark of the second half, and Alabama will probably pull away. So I'm going, with the Tide.
All right, Brandon, one vote for Roll Tide Roll in Sweet Home, Alabama. What say you, the Colonials of Robert Morris or the Tide out of Alabama?
Yeah, I would like to go with the former pitcher of the Tampa Bay Rays, but I am going to go with Alabama Roll Tide.
Yeah, play Leonard Skinner on a loop for me, please. I'll go with Bama as well over Robert Morris. Let's, guys, move now to the final half, to Brandon's neck of the woods, the Midwest Regional. We'll skip over Houston beating SIUE for this one. 8 versus 9, James. Gonzaga, the other WCC rep. They got a tough order, too. 9-seed Georgia is their opposition. So, James, I guarantee you this, though, my friend. A Bulldog wins this game. Will it be Georgia or Gonzaga? Who do you have?
Both teams are kind of shells of themselves of what they used to be. I think that's probably a little bit fair. But because both of these teams were usually like 5 or better seeds in the past. So they're both having to kind of rebuild, I feel like. And I don't know. I pick Gonzaga. I have to go with Gonzaga. Georgia, just in the stacked SEC, is probably just really I don't know. But Gonzaga, it feels like, they've lost a lot. They split with St. Mary, or no, they lost 2 out of 3 against St. Mary's this year, lost to UCLA, lost to UConn, lost to Kentucky, beat Indiana and Baylor.
And they beat
Based
San Diego
on
State.
that, I didn't know that.
At Yeahas Arena.
Earlier in the year. Yeah, I'll probably go Gonzaga then.
Okay, Brandon, one vote for the Bulldogs of Gonzaga. What say you here for this battle of the Bulldogs, Gonzaga or Georgia?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like every time I count Gonzaga out because of how they look during the regular season, I get fooled. I'm going to go Gonzaga round 1 here.
I gotta pick Zaga. It helps out my conference when they go deep. So I gotta pick Gonzaga over the Bulldogs of Georgia. So a Bulldog beats a Bulldog. All right, James, probably another potential upset in the making here. 5-seed Clemson, 12-seed McNeese, the Cowboys facing off with the Tigers of Clemson. James, what say you, McNeese or Clemson?
I've been struggling with this one as well, but I do like the wins that they've had, Clemson, all year long over Duke, North Carolina, SMU, Pitt, Kentucky, but they did lose to Memphis. And then when you look at McNeese State, all I can think about is Steve McNair. But they lost to Alabama, but pretty much handled everybody else. I got to go Clemson. I don't see the upset.
All right, Brandon, one vote for Clemson over McNeese. How about you, the Cowboys or the Tigers?
Yeah, I think, throughout the years, we've always had that one bracket corner that's always been true to form, and I think might be that bracket side. I'm going Clemson.
All in favor for Clemson, though I would not be surprised if, in fact, somehow, some way that Clemson is ousted by McNeese. I think they were in the tournament last year. They had a very good showing. But, yeah, I think you have to kind of go with Clemson in that matchup. James, here's one I've struggled with today, wrestling this one back and forth. 4-seed Purdue, notoriously known, though, for being ousted by a lower seed in one of the more recent tournaments. They got their hands full, James, with 13-seed High Point University. The Panthers are in as a 13-seed. James, I've been wrestling with this one all day. What do you think, Boilermakers or the Panthers of HPU, meaning High Point University?
Man, yeah, I really have been struggling with this one. I'm looking at, Purdue this year. I watched them in a holiday tournament. I think it was at UC San Diego. They were playing someone locally. I didn't go to
the final buzzer, I believe.
Yeah, but I was watching whatever game, and something always seemed off about him this year. But you could just tell with losing Edie and other guys, they weren't as strong. They're still strong inside, but High Point, man, I really want to go with them. You know what? I'm doing it. I'm going High Point over Purdue.
All right, Brandon. So James will go with the Panthers of High Point to upset Purdue. How about you?
Again, another Big Ten team. Another year that, they preseason Big Ten was going to be the tough tournament or tough conference. And then they just kind of had a mediocre run. God. I got to go Big Ten. I got to go Purdue in this one.
And it comes down to Callan for the final say with High Point and Purdue. As much as I want the upset, I think Purdue snaps out of it finally, and they finally kind of, in a way, get back on the right track, to quote Chris Farley on SNL. So we'll go Purdue, but I would not, though. But if High Point pulls off this upset, it would not shock me just because of what we want right now in March Madness. Let's move on, guys, to our next contest out in the Midwest region, I should say. 6-seed Illinois will take on the final play-in first four winner, Xavier, who came back being down by 13 points to topple the Texas Longhorns in Dayton on Wednesday night. So, James, the Fighting Illini or the Musketeers?
I just switched this pick right now from Illinois to Xavier. I don't know why, but I just like the wins that they've had all year long. Xavier going from the first four into this game here. I think the momentum will just go. Illinois was good, but they also had some chinks in the armor. But yeah, I'm going to Xavier.
All right, Brandon. So another, other upset again. A play-in team upsets the 6th seed in the Midwest. What do you say here, Illinois or Xavier?
Well, with the way Xavier battled back, I mean, can they ride that bullshit going into this big game here? Wouldn't surprise me if Xavier wins, but again, it's a Big Ten team. You can't count them out of the first round, so I'm going Illinois.
Yeah, I got to go Xavier. I just think, though, when you've already played a game, everyone is kind of resting, getting guys healthy. Playing the game can be, both. It can be either a blessing in disguise or it could totally backfire on you. But I think Xavier playing, North Carolina playing already maybe helps them out, but we'll go Xavier with this one here. Next up, guys, 3-seed Kentucky, led by Mark Pope. A very intriguing team, though, too, who's always been a very tough team to face. 14-seed Troy, who got one more win over Kentucky. 23-win Troy over 22-win Kentucky. So, James, Wildcats or the Troy Trojans?
The only Trojans that are working this year are the Troy Trojans. Man, I got to go Kentucky with this one. They've been through the ringer playing tough teams, and they fared pretty well, splitting with the Alabama and Auburn, beating Duke and Gonzaga at Gonzaga. Troy just really hasn't faced anyone like that. So, yeah, I'm going Kentucky.
All right, James, one vote for the Kentucky Wildcats over the Troy Trojans. What say you?
Yeah, it's got to be Kentucky. I mean, the history that they got, the people that they can bring in, and in those pregame meetings, and just talk to the team about how this means to them, what the history is. I think that's going to motivate them. So I'm going Kentucky.
All in favor for Kentucky over Troy in that matchup. Next up, though, James, this will be intriguing. 7 seed UCLA out of the Big Ten Conference. Will face 10 seed Utah State from the Mountain West Conference. So this is literally a West Coast matchup here coming up this upcoming week. So, James, the Bruins or the Aggies? Who you got?
Man, UCLA, it feels like they've had a tale of 2 years this season, or 2 halves of the season, where they're worrying about travel, the coach talking about the team, trying to bring them down and bring them back out.
That irked me the wrong way so badly. Like, look, there's ways to talk about your team when they lose, whether they get blown out or they lose by 2 at the final buzzer. But Mick Cronin's commentary, James, was just way too damn inflammatory for me at the start of the season. Now, maybe it probably helped them, as the year went on, though. But still, you don't talk about your team in the media in that kind of way. I don't care if it's old school or not, though. You just don't do that, man. You just don't do that.
I bet he had to apologize a lot to his team all year long.
Probably did.
They've had to go away from like their seniors and good players and all these new players that they've had. But Utah State's been consistent pretty much all year long. I've watched them more, I think, than UCLA this year. It's about even. They swept San Diego State. They did lose to New Mexico twice, but UCLA, it feels like, other from beating Arizona and Gonzaga, and they did beat Michigan State as well, they're not as experienced as former UCLA teams. I think that's going to hurt them. Utah State can really shoot 3-ball well. They're pretty good inside. I'm going to go Utah State.
Okay, Big B, 1 vote for Utah State over the UCLA Bruins in this West Coast battle of a Big Ten school against the Mountain West Conference. Brandon, the Aggies or the Bruins?
It could come down to like kind of what James was saying. Utah hits that 3, they're going to be unstoppable, and everything that's going on in UCLA with you guys stated already. I'm going to go Utah State.
I'm going Utah State to ship UCLA's rear right back to the Pac-12 conference in a couple of years. How about that? Last up, guys, for the opening round of play, number 2, Tennessee Rocky Top is going to take on the 15 seed Wofford Terriers in their first round matchup. So, James, you're going to go with the Rocky Top or the Wofford Terriers for the massive upset of the Volunteers? I
would be really shocked if this happened. Tennessee's just been absolute dogs this year. I think they're going to bark more and louder than the Terriers, unfortunately. I'm going with the Tennessee Volunteers with that one.
All right, Brandon, 1 vote for the Vols over the Wofford Terriers. What say you in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has a little chip on the shoulders, it's typically a number 2 team because they think they should have been number 1. So, I'm going Tennessee.
All in favor for Rocky Top to be playing at the end of that game over Wofford in the Midwest region. All right, guys, we're going to rapid fire and kind of, get through the next matchups here as we enter the round of 32. Let's go back out to the South region. James, Auburn or Creighton in round 2?
Yeah, Detroit Tigers over the Blue Jays. Auburn just is going to be good this year, and I think they're going to just have too much inside for Auburn. The only way Creighton wins, I think, if they create foul trouble for Broome. But I got to go Auburn.
All right, 1 vote for the Tigers in this matchup. Brandon, Auburn or Creighton?
I got to go with Auburn.
All in favor for Auburn, even though I got the uni on, and I love my Blue Jays to death, but got to go with Auburn. Next up, James, the battle of the smart kids. UC San Diego, Big West Conference, 13 seed Yale from the Ivy League. Who you got?
It's very true. It's going to come down to, guess what? Make or miss 3-pointers in this game. Boy, I love this matchup. But I got to go UC San Diego. Again, I think they're going to be quicker than all the teams that they play up into Auburn. So, yeah, I'm going to say UC San Diego continues.
Okay, 1 vote for the Tritons over the Bulldogs in this matchup. Brandon, how about you?
Yeah, let's keep the Cinderella story going. You knock out the 5 seed, you're going to knock out the 9 seed, and you're going to battle the 1 seed. So let's go with San Diego.
All right, all in favor for the Tritons in that matchup. Next game up, fellas. 11 seed North Carolina, 3 seed Iowa State. Big game, James. Over to you.
As much as I want North Carolina to continue their story, I think Iowa State has been just a juggernaut enough to run off the Tar Heels. So I'm going to go Iowa State.
1 vote for the Cyclones. Brandon.
No, I think North Carolina is going to keep it rolling at least 1 more week. I'm going North Carolina.
Ooh, so a chance to break the tie here. As much as I would love UNC to kind of continue like the whole UNC versus the committee, I got to go Iowa State in that matchup. Next game up, James, New Mexico taking on Michigan State. Who you got?
Unfortunately, I think Michigan State just has too much for New Mexico. Playing at a neutral site. I'm going with Sparty.
1 vote for Sparty in this matchup over the Lobos. Brandon, over to you.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's hard to count against Izzo, so you got to go Michigan State.
All in favor for Michigan State just because of the coaching pedigree revolving around Tom Izzo at Michigan State. Next game, James, Florida versus UConn.
Woo, this is going to be fun. But I think Florida is just too deep for UConn. They're not as deep as years before. I'm going Florida.
All right, 1 vote for the Gators. Brandon, who you got, Florida or Connecticut?
Ah, man. Yeah, I got to go Florida. I think if they get past this, they're pretty much going to coast to the Final Four, I think. So I'm going to go Florida.
All in favor for Florida as well. James, back to you. Memphis and Maryland.
Well, I've got, Grand Canyon over Memphis, but Memphis is going to win no matter what, though. If Grand Canyon goes on to beat Maryland, this is where their run stops.
So you got Memphis regardless of who you're playing?
Yeah.
All right, 1 vote for the Tigers over the Terrapins. Brandon, down to you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Justin Timberlake's team. I'm going to go with the Memphis Tigers.
Got my suit and tie. All in favor for Memphis. Next, go to the next game, fellas. 11 seed Drake, 3 seed Texas Tech. Big game, James. Bulldogs or the Red Raiders?
Yeah, another R&B singer, Drake. I think they continue their run over Texas Tech. I'm going to be high on them up until a certain point. You'll see in the next round. But, yeah, I'm going with the Bulldogs.
All right. So, Brandon, 1 vote for Drake over Wreckham and Texas Tech or Texas Tech. So who you got?
I will stick with the Red Raiders. I think Texas Tech will take care of Drake.
Oh man, got to break the tie. It's March Madness. Give me the upset. I'll go with Drake. I'll go with Drake for this one. Let's move on, guys. Here's another great game, guys. This is another pure cinema game. Bill Self in Kansas, Rick Pitino in St. John's. James, Red Storm or Rock Chalk Jayhawk?
Yeah, you gotta love the coaching matchup here. I just think all year long Kansas has not been as well, and then St. John's just found that pedigree where they're just tougher. I'm going St. John's.
1 vote for the Red Storm. Big B.
Yeah, I'm going to go with St. John's. I think they're going to follow the lead of their coach, and their coach knows how to get it done. So I think we're going to see St. John's make a run here.
I got to go St. John's too. I think I like Pitino a little bit more than Bill Self in this matchup. Let's go back out, guys, to the top part of our bracket. James, Duke versus Baylor.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Duke will win this one, and Cooper Flagg is going to have over 30 points in this game.
Brandon, do you agree?
Oh yeah, right now just looking at the matches that possibly could happen. I don't see Duke losing for a while here, so I'm going Duke.
Same, going with Duke as well. Next up, James, an old Pac-12 rivalry is reignited, though. Oregon versus Arizona. Who you got?
Conference of Champions, no truck stops here. Man, because both schools, it feels like they've lost a lot, since they've lost the Pac-12 or left. I want to pick Oregon, but I feel like Arizona just has a little bit more talent. So I'm going to go Arizona.
One vote for the Wildcats out of U of A. Brandon, how about you? The Ducks or the Wildcats?
Yeah, this matchup, I got to stay with the Ducks. I got to go quack with flying high with the V.
Oh, man, you got to break another tie here. Quack, baby. Let's go with the Ducks over the Wildcats because I like Arizona State better anyway. Next up, guys, in the next portion of the upper third, BYU versus Wisconsin. James, who you got here? Big 12 versus Big 10.
I know you mentioned BYU is a really good and centered school, but I think Wisconsin just has more talent. They're great. They're going to have more grit, I should say. So I'm going with Badgers.
One vote for the Badgers over the Cougars. Brandon, how about you? Big 10 versus Big 12. Who you got here?
I'm going to stick with the Big 10. Go with the Badgers.
Sticking with the Badgers, too, on Wisconsin. Played jump around by House of Pain. Last game, guys, for that portion of the bracket, St. Mary's versus Alabama. James, we know that Bama was ousted as a 1 seed by a fellow California school a couple of years ago, but I think this might be Alabama over the Gales.
Unfortunately, I'm going to go with the same. I think Alabama's just going to be too strong for them.
One vote for the Tide over the Gales. Brandon, how about you?
Yeah, as much as I got a few people on my social media page that are Bama fans, and that's all I'm going to hear about every time they win, and it's going to make me sick. But yeah, I got to go with Bama still.
Leonard Skinner's going to keep on singing. We're going to go with Alabama over St. Mary's. All right, down to the bottom portion of the bracket for the Midwest. James, Houston or Gonzaga?
I think Houston's just going to outplay them and just run right around Gonzaga. That's going to be a blowout. I'm going Houston.
One vote for the Cougars out of U of H. Brandon, down to you.
Yeah, again, every time you think you count Gonzaga out, they're going to surprise you. But I think Houston's just going to be too much for them, so I'm going to go Houston.
I'm also in favor with Houston as well over Gonzaga. Next game up, James, Clemson and Purdue, 5 playing 4. Who you got here? The Tigers or Boilermakers?
Well, for me, I have High Point beating Clemson, continuing. But let's just say for this bracket that you have, I'll say Clemson. But I'm going High Point.
Ooh, so, okay. All right. So for the sake of our bracket, though, Clemson for James's sake in this one, because again, we're kind of just making our own here for the network. With that in mind, though, Brandon, how about you? Tigers or the Boilermakers?
Yeah, it's the curse of the Big Ten. Not every Big Ten team is going to shell out. I think Clemson's going to take down the Boilermakers.
We'll go with Clemson as well in this one. Next game up, James, Xavier and Kentucky. Does a play-in team keep the momentum going, or does Kentucky stop the Musketeers dead in their tracks?
That's what I was just thinking about. They're probably going to need 5 Musketeers instead of the 3. I'm going to go Kentucky, sadly. I think Xavier's run stops.
All right, one vote for Kentucky over Xavier. Brandon, over to you.
Yeah, it's going to be 2 votes for Kentucky.
All in favor for some Kentucky Fried Chicken. Next game up, guys, Utah State, Tennessee, the Vols and Aggies. James, who you got, SEC versus Mountain West?
Damn it. I think Tennessee's just too strong, too deep for Utah State. Just going to be too physical. I'm going Tennessee.
One vote for the Volunteers out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Mr. Herrera, who you got?
Yeah, I think the bench is going to play a lot for Tennessee in this game here, and I'm with James. They're too deep, so I'm going with Tennessee.
Yeah, bench depth and depth in general will be what gives Tennessee the W over Utah State. Into the Sweet 16, fellas. We'll go back to the top of the bracket. Auburn and UC San Diego. James, who you got?
Unfortunately, this is where the run of the Tritons ends. God willing, it doesn't, but I'm going with the Tigers.
One vote for Auburn. Mr. Herrera, who do you got?
Yeah, if San Diego makes it this far, I think there's going to be a lot of people rooting for San Diego, but I think deep down everybody knows that Auburn's going to be too tough for them. I'm going to go Auburn.
The San Diego sports curse continues. Next up, fellas, on the Sweet 16 side of things, Iowa State and Sparty. James, who you got?
I just feel like these two should be in the same conference, but I don't think they are. I'm going Sparty.
One vote for Tom Izzo and the Spartans. Brandon, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, you get closer and closer to the Final Four. You can't bet against Izzo and his team, so I'm going Michigan State.
All in favor for Michigan State, though. I think Iowa State gives them all they can handle and then some in that ball game. Let's go down, guys, to the bottom half of the bracket. Florida and Memphis. James, who you got?
This one is going to be tough, but I think it's going to be more about team over individuals. So I'm going to go Florida.
One vote for the Gators over the Tigers. Brandon, over to you.
Yeah, I think Gators are going to keep her rolling here.
Chomp, chomp, baby. Florida will beat Memphis in this matchup. Let's go down, guys, to Drake and St. John's. James, who you got?
Sadly, I think this is where Drake's run is over, if you know that song. I'm going to go St. John's. I think they're going to just be too physical for Drake, and they're going to get the ball to the big guy and let him dominate, like Shaq says.
One vote for the Red Storm. Brandon, who you got here? Bulldogs or Red Storm?
You're going with the soon-to-be Hall of Famer. Yeah, I'm going to say John's.
Well, we're all going St. John's here for the to move on to the Elite Eight. Next up, fellas, Duke in Oregon. James, who you got?
I got Duke over Arizona, but I got Duke no matter what.
One vote for the Blue Devils. Brandon, how about you?
Yeah, this is another game. If Oregon and Duke face off, I think there's going to be a lot of people hoping Oregon wins. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm going Duke.
All in favor of the Blue Devils to move on to the Elite Eight. Next game, guys, this could be intriguing here. Wisconsin versus Alabama. That's a 2 versus a 3. James, who you got here? The Tide or the Badges?
This one is going to be very, very tough. But I feel like Alabama won't be as strong as Wisconsin. Kind of going with the upset here. I'm going Wisconsin.
Ooh, so one vote for Bucky Badger to knock off the Tide. Brandon, how about you?
Oh, man. Possibly having 2 Big Ten teams in the Elite Eight here, huh? Yeah, I'll go Wisconsin. I think this one is going to be a good one and possibly overtime game here. Maybe a couple overtimes, but yeah, I'll go Wisconsin.
Wow. Bama and Wisconsin playing each other 2 versus 3. You two said Wisconsin. Count me in on Wisconsin. Let's go Bucky Badger to pull off the semi-upset of the Crimson Tide to go and face Duke in the Elite Eight. Let's move on, guys, to the next matchup here, Houston and Clemson. James, who you got?
Unfortunately, this is where the high point is the low point for me. I'm going to go Houston over High Point, in my bracket at least.
One vote for Houston over Clemson or High Point, or Purdue for that matter. Brandon, over to you.
Yeah, this could be where we maybe see a 1 seed fall, but man, I don't. I gotta go with Houston. I mean, they're the top dogs for a reason, but Clemson could give us some problems, so I'm going Houston.
I'm going Houston, but it sounds like it'll be a nail biter at this rate with how we feel about this matchup. Let's, gentlemen, move on to the next matchup here. Kentucky and Tennessee. A little SEC matchup here in this one between Mark Pope and Rick Barnes and their respective sides. James, Kentucky or Tennessee?
I'm happy that you mentioned Rick Barnes. He's just been a great coach over the years. I think he's going to coach a masterful game against Kentucky. Shout out to the first-year coach there, Pope, but I think this is where Kentucky run ends. I'm going Tennessee.
One vote for the Vols. Rocky Top beating Kentucky. Big B. Who you got here, the Vols or the Wildcats?
Ooh, God, tough. I gotta go with history. I gotta go with Kentucky.
To break the tie, huh? Okay.
Yep.
I love both what Mark Pope has done this year, and I love what Rick Barnes has done to get the men's program back up to snuff at Tennessee, because they've been in the shadow of the women's team for so damn long. I hate to pick one of these two to move on. I have to, obviously. Give me the Volunteers. Give me Tennessee to move on to face Houston. All right, gents, we're almost there. Let's move on to our next matchup here, guys. Auburn, Michigan State. James, this is going to be a good one. Who you got?
I'm going to go Auburn. I think it's going to get down to the wire. Anything can happen. But maybe the Izzo magic works, but I'm going to go Auburn.
All right, Brandon, one vote for Auburn over Sparty. Who do you got here?
Ooh. I think this game's going to be a good one to get to the Final Four. I think, man, I think it's going to be magic coming from an unknown player out of either one of these teams for this game. Man, I'm going to go Michigan State. I can't vote against. I can't vote, but I think we're going to see. We're going to hear a name that we haven't heard before in this tournament come out of this game.
Man, oh man, oh man! You guys put me in a tough spot here. Auburn, number 1 seed overall. Tom Izzo, like Brandon said, he can't count him out come March. I'll look at the paper bracket real quick, just kind of see the records real quick. Michigan State being 27-6. Auburn has one more win. SEC versus Big Ten. I want to embrace the Izzo magic come March, but something tells me it's still going to be Auburn, so I'll go with the Tigers to go to the Final Four. Next up, fellas, we'll stay up top. We'll go Duke, Wisconsin. James, who you got?
I'm going to go Duke. I just feel like they have too much for Wisconsin.
One vote for the Blue Devils. Brandon, how about you? The Badges or the Blue Devils?
Yeah, this is where it's going to be the fall of the Big Ten. I mean, if Michigan State doesn't make it, I don't think Wisconsin's going to make it. So we got Duke.
We'll go with Duke to move on into their half of the Final Four. Let's go down, guys, at the bottom of the bracket here. This will be a good one, too. Florida versus St. John's. James, do you buy Florida or do you buy Rick Pitino's resurgence in New York with St. John's University?
This is where it gets really tough, where you have to put aside like emotions and, rooting for just a person instead of like really looking at the games. This one's really tough, but I'm going to go. What did I pick? Yeah, Florida. I'm going to go Florida.
One vote for the Gators over the Red Storm. Now, it should be noted, though, guys, that both teams would enter that game with 30-4 regular season records. Mm-hmm. So, Brandon, how about you? St. John's or Florida?
I think Pitino's going to have his team ready. I think he's going to make some phone calls, get some very emotional speakers in there. I'm going to say John's.
I don't know how to feel about this one. I feel like as the bracket gets more and more condensed and you get to the final few teams, like it becomes so damn hard. I got to go with Florida. As much as I would love to see St. John's pull it off, I got to go with Florida. Last game, James, for the bottom half of this half of the bracket, Houston, Tennessee. Who you got?
Okay, this is where I don't trust Houston in these games where it's Elite Eight or more.
Nope.
I just never do. So I'm going to go Tennessee. I think they pull off maybe a shocker here.
All right, one vote for the Vols to take down the top seed Cougars from Houston. Brandon, who you got?
Well, I said Houston, I think, would have a problem, game before this. So I'm going to go Tennessee, but if I do see that big upset happening, I can see Clemson pulling it off. So, but I'll go Tennessee.
Wow. 2 votes for Tennessee already. Play Rocky Top. Give me Tennessee. Let's put them in. I mean, that game probably boils down to coaching. I really think that it'll come down to coaching.
Yeah.
I think Rick Barnes probably works his own magic. So with that, folks, here is our final 4. We got Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Tennessee. 3 of the 4 number ones make the final 4 in our opinion. First up, James, Tigers and Gators. Who do you got in this SEC showdown?
Yeah, I feel like this is where Auburn might come up short here, and Florida is going to show how deep they are, and they'll probably win in a good fashion. I'm going Florida.
1 vote for Florida. Brandon, how about you on this one?
Oh, man. Yeah, Auburn's going to have a battle, if it plays out with Michigan State. Florida's going to have a battle if it plays out with St. John's. I think James is right. I think it's going to come down to the bench. I'm going to go Florida.
Give me Florida. Let's go Gators in this matchup. All right, on the other side of the bracket, James, Duke and Tennessee. Who you got?
I'm going to go Duke. I just think they have too many great athletes. Yeah, I'm going Duke.
1 vote for Duke. Brandon, what say you?
Oh, again, another good matchup for the plays out. It could come down to the bench. I think we stated Tennessee's bench is a little bit better, maybe even coaching wise. Callan, I'm gonna have you split it. I'm gonna go Tennessee.
I would love to give it to Rick Barnes, but there's a guy named Cooper Flagg, despite a jarred ankle playing for Duke. So I got to go with Duke in this matchup, which sets up, guys, our C2C bracket final. Florida versus Duke, SEC versus the ACC. James, the national champ in your mind will be whom?
Sadly, I'm going to go with Duke. I just think all year long they've been solid with the 30-3 record that they have. Maybe experience will help them as well. Florida's just coming in being kind of a surprise number 1 seed. I don't think people had that, but a lot of people were on them. But Duke, everybody's been on them. So, yeah, I'm going Duke to win the national championship.
1 vote for Duke to win all the marbles. Brandon, how about you, the Gators or the Blue Devils?
Well, if it's down to these 2 teams, I got to say sorry to my co-host of C2C Rankum. I got to go Duke.
And all in favor, give that natty to Duke in our C2C March Madness preview picks, with Duke beating Florida is our national championship pick for 2025 from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas. And I'll put in some random tiebreaker score of 101 because why not? With that in mind, guys, that's it for the show, basically. Final thoughts for tonight's program. James, we'll start with you. I know that we thoroughly enjoy March Madness. It is, like we said, it's the best, time of the year, like we usually say, around this time of the year. But James, your final thoughts for tonight's program are what?
Yeah, I cannot wait to rush home after work and getting off early too, which really helps. I'm gonna watch, hopefully catch the rest of that Gonzaga Georgia game. I'll be most intrigued to that one, and of course UC San Diego to hopefully see the upset over Michigan. So I cannot wait for tomorrow and the rest of the tournament to start and go on.
And Brandon, your final thoughts. I know that you're going to be probably watching the SEC, the Big Ten teams very closely. I know that I'll be keeping an eye on obviously Creighton and keeping an eye as well on the West Coast Conference teams and of course the local team here from UC San Diego. So Brandon, your final thoughts as we now sit on the eve of March Madness tipping off at 9:00 Pacific time tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun tournament. Round 1, I think a lot of us do really well at round 1. It's just the later it goes, the harder it is to pick, even, between us 3 right now. But it's always good fun. Yeah, I'll be watching the Big Ten. I'll be watching, USC San Diego. Hopefully they can make their runs. And watch the highlights. So good luck to everybody.
Yes, and if you folks, there's still time. You got part of tonight, and you got part of tomorrow as well. Again, brackets will lock for ESPN.com at roughly 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. in the Central Time Zone. But again, to join the group, again, log on to ESPN.com. Either sign in or sign up. It's all for free. And then select the Men's Tournament Challenge. You might see the logo on a banner on top of the website or underneath the Fantasy Sports tab. And then once you do that, you can go and search for a group in the group directory search bar, search in Coast to Coast Entertainment Network and use the password that we restarted from last year, C2C 2024. Make your picks, get them in time, and you can compete against James, myself, Brandon, and the rest of our crew as well for March Madness. But I'm excited for tomorrow. I already got the alarm set. I got plans to get breakfast delivered to the house, get the coffee pot going, and then stay up and watch all the games and lose my mind. And, of course, my beloved Creighton Blue Jays start the day at 9 a.m. Tomorrow against Louisville to kick off March Madness. With that, though, folks in mind, enjoy the tournament. We'll see you folks back here next time on Coast to Coast Entertainment. For myself, Callan McClurg, for James Gonzalez and Brandon Herrera, we will see you folks back here next time for more C2C programming, folks. Till next time, have a great night, and we'll see you next time. Till then, bye-bye.